Hello, my name is Udo Erasmus and we're going to talk about probiotics. Probiotics are bacteria. And just to give you a little background, bacteria make up 10% of the biomass of this planet. 10%. So that's a lot. There's a lot of bacteria on this planet. They're in the soil, they're on the soil, they're in the air, they're in the water, they're on your skin, they're in every one of your orifices in your body, they're in your digestive tract. I mean, they are everywhere. So in comparison to 10% of the biomass on the planet being bacteria, all human beings altogether only make up 0.1% of the biomass of the planet. So there's a lot of bacteria around because they're really small. We're really big and they're really small. We got 10 trillion cells. Their cells are smaller than our cells. So there's like gazillions of bacterial cells all over this planet. And they come in three, if you think about it functionally, they come in three categories. One is sick, I call them sick bacteria. Those are the bacteria that would love to live inside your digestive tract, and because it's warm there and there's lots of food, but if they did, they would make you sick, or they might even kill you. So that includes E. coli and Salmonella, everybody knows about those, Listeria, Legionnaire's disease, and in places where hygiene is bad, like in places after war, cholera, typhoid. Cholera and typhoid, when they get inside, they cause diarrhea, and people die from dehydration because the diarrhea gets so bad that they lose so much water from their body. So these are I call them the sick bacteria. They can make you sick and they can kill you. The second one is rot bacteria. Rot bacteria are everywhere. Their job description is that when something dies, they're part of the process of recycling that, along with funguses and other microbes. I call them rot bacteria. There are tons of them in the soil, which is one of the reasons why I'm not so big on soil-based bacteria as a supplement. My view is that, soil-based bacteria are for people under the ground, and while we're living above the ground, we should take a different kind of probiotic. So the third kind of bacteria is protective bacteria, and their job is to prevent the bacteria that can make you sick or kill you from doing that. And their other job is to keep the rot bacteria from recycling you while you're still alive. And among those protective bacteria, which include some yeasts and some funguses and a number of different kinds of microbes, among those we have the probiotics. They're mostly Lactobacilli and Bifidobacteria, and these are the probiotics that we use deliberately to change the kinds of bacteria in our digestive tract and to turn them in a direction that is healthy as opposed to a direction that could be sick-making. So where do probiotics come from? They're found in specific places. They're not nearly as widespread as the rot bacteria or the sick bacteria that you find in soil, in water, in the air, everywhere, on your clothes, everywhere. They're found in specific places. They're in this fermenting layer on top of the soil where leaves and other plant material turns back into soil. And plants will pick them up as they push through the ground. They will strip back the soil bacteria, which stay in the soil, and they will pick up probiotics. And those probiotics will cover the plant, and they're part of the plant's health basis. They also are found in breast ducts, they're found in the birth canal, they're found in other body openings, in your nose and in your eyes and in your belly button, and along with about 1,000 other different kind of bacteria, they're usually found in a healthy digestive tract. Now, it's interesting that bacteria make up about a kilogram, 2 pounds, maybe a little more than 2 pounds of weight in your digestive tract. So way less weight than you have. But in those 2 pounds of microbes have a lot of genes that we don't have in the human body. We have 23,000 genes in our body. They have 2.3 million, so they have 100 times as many genes, and they're different genes. And those genes, some of them make beneficial molecules that some of which are absorbed that will affect the body. some of them make toxic molecules that when they're absorbed are detrimental to our body. So what kind of bacteria we carry in our digestive tract is actually really important. And the research shows that when you are on a plant-based diet, the microbes in your digestive tract, they call it the microbiome, your microbiome is different than if you're on a meat-based diet. And they're quite different. And the meat-based diet gets you more toxic molecules made by certain kinds of bacteria. And the plant-based diet gets you more beneficial bacteria. And it's one of the reasons why the research these days is very clear that if you want to have the longest life and the healthiest life, it will be based on a largely plant-based diet, plus vitamin B12 or plus animal product once every 3 months or once every month, but not every day. And if you change from a plant-based diet to an animal-based diet, your microbiome changes within 2 weeks. And if you change from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet, it changes again in a more beneficial direction within 2 weeks. So it doesn't take very long to change it. And then the other way that, of course, that you can change it is by deliberately taking supplements of probiotics, because that then influences what your total microbiome is going to look like. So the question to ask is, why should we take probiotics? And the answer is very simple. When you cook foods, you kill the probiotics that are on raw foods, and if you kill them, you should replace them. But pasteurization also kills probiotics, and so do antibiotics. Antibiotics kill bad bacteria, but they kill the good guys too. And the way you take probiotics, they come in capsules, and the way most people take them is they put a capsule in their mouth and they swallow it. That gets us benefits from the stomach down, but it doesn't get us benefits from the stomach up. Now, why is that important? Well, if you were to eat raw foods in nature, the probiotics in those foods would always start in your mouth. And they would work their way through your mouth. They have benefits in your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach. In fact, one of the reasons why they would protect you from H. pylori that causes ulcers, but they can't do that if they don't open up until they're in your digestive tract, in your duodenum. So if you want to get the best results from probiotics, you want to start them in your mouth. The best way to take probiotics is to open them up in your mouth, because that way you get benefits from them all the way through your entire digestive tract. Another way to do it is you open them up and mix them in food that is cool enough to eat. Because if you put them in boiling soup, you're going to kill them. The reason we need to take them is because we cook our foods, and when we cook our foods, we kill them, so we should replace them, because they're important in nature and they're important for health because of that. So the other way you can do it is you can brush your teeth with them. That's what I do sometimes. Before I go to bed every night, I take a high-dose probiotic, open it up, dump it on my tongue. Sounds funny, but just because we're not used to it. Brush my teeth with them, and then I swallow them, suck them off the toothbrush, because it doesn't need them, I do. And then I swallow them, then I don't rinse my mouth, and I go to bed, and I leave the probiotics in my mouth. And surprise, surprise, I wake up with exponentially less severe bad breath in the morning. Why is that? Because when you do a mouthwash, you kill 99.9%, and then they start to go again. In your mouth, you don't swallow when you're sleeping, so they stay in your mouth, they grow and multiply, and after 8 hours of sleep, you will have 32 times more bad breath bacteria in your mouth than you had before the mouthwash. That's why bad breath is always worst in the morning, because they've had time to grow and there's nothing there to stop them. So the way you stop them is you provide probiotics that are also alive, that do battle with them all night. And they steal their food, they outpopulate them, and they inhibit their growth. It's amazing the difference it makes. And then you don't have to get up and say, "Excuse me, honey, I'd like to talk to you, but I gotta brush my teeth first." You know, everybody knows that one, right? So you brush your teeth with probiotics, or you put them in your food, or you take them after meals. Again, it's always better to brush your teeth with them. Those are the best ways to take them. And then Because they're human adapted, you do not have to enteric coat them because they survive strong acid and strong bile. And if you enteric coat probiotics, then you make sure that you don't get the benefits in your upper digestive tract because they don't open up until they've passed through your, through your stomach into your small intestine. We work with probiotics that we call human adapted. And human adapted means these are probiotics that are naturally at home in the human digestive tract. And that's important because if they're naturally at home in the human digestive tract, they are able to survive stomach acid, which is quite strong in humans, not so strong in animals that eat plants. And they also survive strong bile, which again is strong in us, but not so strong in plant eaters. So these probiotics survive. Not only they survive, but they implant in the lining of our digestive tract, inside lining. They set up house there and they eat and multiply, so they provide more and more probiotics, and they will last on average for about 10 to 14 days. Whereas the dairy probiotics, they don't implant, they stay just in the food part of the digestive tract, and they go through the entire body in just one day. So even though they have benefits, they just don't have as many benefits as the probiotics. They're also killed by stomach acid and bile to a substantial degree, and so you get less benefits from probiotics that are not naturally at home in your human digestive tract. So human adapted is what we use. And they're lactobacilli that are human adapted, and they're bifidobacteria that are human adapted. Now, one thing about these probiotics, the lactobacilli and the bifidobacteria, is they do not form spores. Many bacteria form spores, so when things get dry, they form a spore and they hibernate in that spore. And then they can sit around and stay alive for a year or 2 years or 5 years. And then when they get into water, then they come out of their spore, and then they start to eat and multiply. Probiotics don't do that. So what happens is when they're dry, they gradually die. When they're dry, they die. So the way that you slow down the rate at which they die is by refrigerating them. So while they're in the capsule and there's no water for them or no food for them to multiply, you want to keep them at low temperature because otherwise you lose the potency of the product. And in fact, if you lowered the temperature to minus 70 degrees Celsius, you can't do that in your fridge, but if you did, they would actually live forever. And this is what they do in the probiotics bank, where you get the different strains that you want to use. If you have them in the refrigerator, they lose about 40% potency in a year. If you keep them on your countertop, they lose 1 to 2% per day. So refrigeration protects their potency. And I say, I only buy probiotics out of the fridge. I mean, they're in the fridge when I buy them. I take them out of the fridge when I buy them. And at home, I keep them in the refrigerator, simply because I get better potency. When I travel, I take them along. I know they're not refrigerated. I know I may lose 2% per day. So I take a very high dose one with me. And I'm never on the road 50 days without refrigeration. So I know that I'm getting what I can, but I also know that I'm losing 2% per day. And that's okay if you're starting with lots. Of the two probiotics we work with, Lactobacilli and Bifidobacteria, Bifidobacteria are the more sensitive one. They're harder to grow. They have more health benefits actually, but they're harder to grow and they're more expensive. So sometimes people will only use a little bit so they can put it on the label. And you want to be sure that people tell you how much of each probiotic is in their product, so you can see for yourself what you're actually getting. Then we have Super 8. Super 8, you may have seen the panty ad. The idea of Super 8 was for Candida, but it's also really good for travelers. I've taken them to Asia and to South America, and they basically protect you from Montezuma's revenge in Mexico, and they prevent you from Delhi belly in India. You know, when you travel in different places where the normal microbes are different, sometimes they get into your system and you get diarrhea, or you get, dysentery, sometimes serious problems. And the probiotics protect you from those. So that's the traveler one and the yeast one, Super 8.